TaylorMade released a new driver this year, last year, and the year before. The price, every time, $649. That number did not come from an engineering team in Carlsbad, California. It came from a private equity firm in Seoul, South Korea, that has owned TaylorMade since 2021. And TaylorMade is not the most surprising name on this list. Most American golfers treat a driver purchase as a competitive market decision. They compare TaylorMade with Titleist, weigh the performance claims, check what the world's top players are carrying. What they do not check, because nobody told them to, is who owns the company behind the name on the club. The two most dominant equipment brands in American golf, the #1 driver and the #1 golf ball, are both majority controlled by private equity firms headquartered in Seoul. This has been true for 14 years in one case and 4 years in the other. The golf industry has not announced it. The brands have not made it part of their marketing. And the pricing decisions made in those Seoul boardrooms have added $150 to the cost of a flagship driver in 5 years. This video covers the ownership structure behind both companies, how those structures were built, what they mean for what you pay, and the one number about professional tour ball usage that the industry has an obvious incentive to keep you from calculating. The brands you compare at the golf shop are not competing the way you think they are. TaylorMade commands the largest driver presence on the PGA Tour. Titleist holds 73% of all golf balls used in professional competition in 2025, 7 times the nearest competitor per PGA Club Tracker. You see TaylorMade and Titleist as rivals. The holding companies behind them operate in the same city, inside the same investment ecosystem, building toward the same kind of financial exit. Acushnet Holdings Corporation is the parent company of Titleist, FootJoy, Scotty Cameron, and Vokey Design. Acushnet trades on the New York Stock Exchange under the ticker symbol GOLF. Its headquarters address is 333 Bridge Street, Fairhaven, Massachusetts. Every detail signals American company. The controlling shareholder is an entity called Magnus Holdings Company Limited. Magnus Holdings is wholly owned by Phyla Holdings Corporation. Phyla Holdings is headquartered at 35 Bowman Row, Seongbuk-gu, Seoul, Korea. As of December 31st, 2024, that Seoul holding company controls 51.3% of Acushnet, per Acushnet's own stock exchange filings. The Massachusetts address on the Titleist packaging is accurate. The American identity of the company is a separate question. Acushnet started in Fairhaven, Massachusetts in 1910. Philip E. Young, a Massachusetts Institute of Technology graduate, founded the company in 1932, focused on precision golf balls. The first Titleist ball followed in 1935. American Brands, later renamed Fortune Brands, purchased the company in 1976 and held it for 35 years. In 2011, Fortune Brands announced it was refocusing on its liquor business. The division going up for sale included Titleist, FootJoy, Scotty Cameron, and Vokey. Together, those 4 brands represent the most concentrated premium golf portfolio in the industry. The buyer was not another American conglomerate. A Korean group associated with Fila Korea Limited and Mirai Asset Private Equity agreed to purchase Acushnet for $1.23 billion. The deal closed July 29, 2011. Phyla itself has a layered history. The brand was founded in Italy in 1911 by the Fila brothers in Biella. Fila Korea acquired the Italian brand in 2007. So the entity that purchased the most prestigious name in American golf was itself a Korean company wearing an Italian name. Acushnet listed on the New York Stock Exchange in 2016. Fila Korea's holding vehicle, Magnus Holdings, retained 53.1% at the IPO. They have been selling down that stake slowly since, from 53% at listing to 51.3% as of December 2024. They remain the controlling shareholder. The people making daily product decisions at Titleist are still in Fairhaven. The entity collecting the majority of the dividends, voting the majority of the stock, and directing the company's strategic direction. Seoul. The person at the top of that ownership chain has a name. Jin Yoon, whose Korean name is Yoon Yoon Soo, owns a 75% stake in Piemonte Compagnia Limited. Piemonte is the controlling shareholder of Fila Holdings Corp. So the chain behind the Titleist Pro V1 in a golfer's bag runs as follows. The golfer at the retailer to Acushnet Holdings Corp. In Fairhaven to Magnus Holdings Company Limited. In Seoul to Fila Holdings Corp. In Seoul to Piemonte Company Limited to Jin Yoon. Acushnet generated $2.38 billion in net sales in 2023, with adjusted EBITDA of $376 million per the company's earnings report filed February 2024. That same year, operating cash flow reached $372 million. Titleist golf ball sales grew 13% in 2023, led by the new Pro V1 launch. None of this makes Titleist a bad product. The Pro V1 is the most played ball on tour for reasons that have nothing to do with the ownership structure. The question is not whether the ball performs. The question is whether the golfer buying that ball at $54 per dozen has ever been given the information to know where the profits flow. The SEC filings are public. Acushnet's investor relations website lists its major shareholders. The information is not hidden. It has simply never been placed in front of the person writing the check at Golf Galaxy. TaylorMade's history is different. Gary Adams founded the company in 1979 after borrowing $20,000 and opening a small facility in McHenry, Illinois. Adidas acquired TaylorMade in 1997. For nearly 2 decades, the company expanded under the Adidas umbrella, becoming the dominant driver brand in professional golf. In 2016, Adidas announced it was exiting the equipment business to focus on footwear and apparel. KPS Capital Partners, a New York private equity firm, purchased TaylorMade in 2017. KPS held TaylorMade for 4 years. In 2021, with the post-pandemic golf boom driving record equipment sales, they put TaylorMade on the market. The expected buyer was a major American or European sporting goods company. The company that won the deal was Centroid Investment Partners. Centroid was founded in Seoul in 2015 by Jin-hyuk Jong, a former Macquarie investment banker who had taken up golf only a few years before the acquisition. Investment bankers working the sale initially did not take Centroid seriously as a bidder. The final purchase price was $1.71 billion, the largest cross-border private equity acquisition by a Korean firm at the time. To fund a $1.71 billion acquisition, Centroid did not act alone. The consortium of limited partners behind the deal included several Korean entities that the American golf press has not examined closely. The Korean fashion conglomerate F&F Komerne, which owns the Discovery Expedition and MLB apparel brands in Korea, contributed roughly $392 million to the deal, more than 23% of the total acquisition price, per Golf Digest reporting in May 2025. Also in the consortium were the MG Korean Federation of Community Credit Cooperatives, the National Agricultural Cooperative Federation, and the National Credit Union Federation of Korea. Those last three names are not hedge funds. They are the savings and investment vehicles for ordinary Korean citizens, farmers, factory workers, school teachers who deposit money into cooperative accounts every month. Through those accounts, millions of ordinary Koreans became indirect owners of TaylorMade Golf Company in 2021. When Scotty Scheffler carried a custom TaylorMade Qi4D driver to victory at the Open Championship at Royal Portrush in 2025, the revenue flowing from that win went in part to Korean Community Credit Union members who have likely never stood on a fairway. This is not a critique of those investors. They made a financially defensible decision. It is the answer to the question of who actually owns the most used driver in professional golf. The price of TaylorMade's flagship driver under KPS ownership in 2020, $499. Since Centroid took over in 2021, flagship driver launch prices have moved in one direction. 2021 Sim 2, $529. 2022 Stealth, up to $629. 2023 Stealth 2, up to $649. 2024 Qi4D, $599 to $629. 2025 Qi35, $599 to $649. 2026 Qi4D, $649. Every year, a new driver. Every year, a press release about breakthrough technology. Every year, the ceiling holds at $649. TaylorMade's revenue in the year Centroid acquired the company, $943 million. Revenue in 2023, $1.44 billion. That is a 53% increase in 3 years, per Korea Herald, reporting citing Centroid figures. The purchase price was $1.71 billion. The current estimated sale valuation, $3.3 to $3.7 billion. Centroid has appointed J.P. Morgan and Jefferies to manage the sale. Golf-focused investment groups and global private equity firms are the reported bidders. The American golfer buying a $649 TaylorMade driver is funding an exit strategy for a Korean private equity consortium. The driver, after the exit closes, will be manufactured by whoever wins the next bidding process, which the golfer is also not part of. Before we get to the figure that changes the context of the 73% Titleist usage number you just heard, there is one more layer to the TaylorMade story. Because the ownership situation is not as straightforward as Centroid simply deciding to sell. F&F Company, the Korean fashion retailer that contributed $392 million to Centroid's acquisition, claims it holds the first right of refusal on any sale of TaylorMade. Centroid disputes this. The two sides are not aligned, and they have each hired a major investment bank to make the argument on their behalf. In response to Centroid's appointment of J.P. Morgan and Jefferies, F&F appointed Goldman Sachs to represent its interests, per KED Global. Reporting from June 2025, F&F's preferred outcome is an initial public offering, not an outright sale. Centroid's stated preference is a direct sale. Centroid's official reasoning: we conducted a thorough analysis of various monetization strategies and concluded that a stake sale provides a more favorable risk-return profile for our limited partners compared to an initial public offering. The limited partners Centroid is optimizing for include those Korean community credit unions and farm cooperatives. The golfer is not a limited partner. The golfer is the revenue source that makes the limited partners' returns possible. A Korean private equity firm and a Korean fashion conglomerate are currently in a legal dispute over who gets to sell the most influential American driver brand. Goldman Sachs and J.P. Morgan are on opposite sides. The Ryder Cup ran while the most recent Goldman Sachs filing in this dispute was being processed. Now, the number about Titleist ball usage that the industry has never fully explained. Titleist states that approximately 70% of PGA Tour players choose to play the Pro V1 or Pro V1X. That figure is accurate and verifiable from weekly tour bag counts. It is also incomplete in one specific way that changes what the number actually means. A portion of the remaining 30% are players under contract to a competing ball brand. Those contracts pay the player to use a specific ball, regardless of personal preference. When Nike exited the golf equipment business in 2016, a large group of tour professionals became equipment free agents overnight, with no ball contract binding them to anything. What happened to Titleist's ball usage in the events that followed? At the John Deere Classic, with a field of 156 players containing an unusually high proportion of free agents, Titleist ball usage exceeded 80% for the first time on record, per Darrell survey data dating back to 1996. That means the published 70% figure includes players who are financially incentivized to play something else. Remove the payment and Titleist's share goes up, not down. Tour pro Ryan Palmer, who declined full equipment contracts and has competed as a free agent for years, described his position in a Golf WRX Gear Dive podcast interview plainly. With the amount of money we play for on the PGA Tour, why would I risk using something I don't 100% feel confident in? When nobody is paying them, more than 8 in 10 professionals on a 156-player tour reach for a ball controlled by a Korean holding company in Seoul. The ball passes the unpaid test comprehensively. There is one significant American golf company that has not been sold to Korean private equity, Japanese conglomerates, or any other external entity. Ping, headquartered in Phoenix, Arizona. Founded in 1959 by Karsten Solheim, a Norwegian immigrant who designed his first putter in a garage in Redwood City, California, while working nights as an engineer at General Electric. He named the company after the sound the putter made when it struck the ball. The name was accurate. Karsten died in 2000. His son John A. Solheim took over. John's son, John K. Solheim, became president in 2017 following a unanimous board decision. Oregon State University's College of Business awarded Karsten Manufacturing Corporation their Dean's Award for Family Business Leadership in 2019. Ping has never listed on a stock exchange. It has never been acquired. It manufactures its clubs at its campus in Phoenix, using an order-based production model, no finished inventory, build to order. The Golf WRX commenter who asked, in the week the Centroid deal closed, is Ping the only so-called American company now making clubs? Was, depending on how you count it, correct. Ping's flagship driver in 2025, $525. TaylorMade's Qi4D at current MSRP, $649. The price difference is $124. What explains that gap, the ownership structure, the production model, or something else entirely, is a question the data does not settle. The numbers are what they are. This is what the golf industry was not going to organize and put in front of you. The #1 golf ball in America is majority owned by a Korean holding company that paid $1.23 billion for it in 2011. The company behind that ball generated $2.38 billion in revenue in 2023 alone. The #1 driver brand is owned by a Korean private equity consortium that paid $1.71 billion in 2021 and is currently selling for more than double that. The Tour Pro endorsing those brands is working under a paid contract. The Tour Pro with no contract chose the Korean-owned ball at an 80% plus rate when the financial pressure was removed. Driver price? 2020, $499. Driver price 2026, $649. Revenue growth over 4 years of Korean ownership, 53%. The only company in the Big Four that has not been sold, Ping, Phoenix, Arizona, Solheim family, 66 years and counting. All of this information was in public filings, Korean business press, and golf media. It was not secret. It was not organized and aimed at the person writing the check at the pro shop counter. The golfer who walked in comparing TaylorMade with Titleist made a choice. It was not the choice they thought they were making. Most golfers will buy a $649 driver again this spring. They will do it on the basis of a carbon face and a tour endorsement and a name they have trusted for 20 years. You now know the price timeline, the ownership chain, the revenue figures, and the result of the unpaid test. You are no longer most golfers. If you want to understand how equipment contracts actually work, what the difference is between a full staff deal and a partial deal, and what tour players say about the process when they are not in front of a brand camera, that is what the next video covers.